like to thank Mark Faber for sharing with us that original piece, It's All Good, written and composed by Mark himself. Hello, everybody. Enough is enough. Why not us? Why not now? This is SGN. That is the UUFE edition of Some Good News. I'm Christina Drostin. I will be your co-host today with Doug Jurrius. If it isn't clear yet, it soon will be. We have pretty much no idea what we're doing. However, one thing is clear. We all need some good news. John Krasinski, who apparently made his claim to fame on some show called The Office, inspired people a few months ago around the world with his new show called Some Good News. He recognized that the weight of 2020 needs to be counterbalanced by the myriad stories of how humanity has pulled together to bolster and nurture one another. John accomplished this by simply reaching out and asking people, "Will you share with me some good news?" The results were staggering. Inspiring and heartfelt videos and photos and stories were sent in from around the world. Since then, not only has John put together additional episodes, he has also encouraged the average person to rip off his idea and put together their own local edition. Doug Jurrius was particularly inspired by this, and one morning in May said, "Hey, that would be neat for us to do at UUFE." To which I replied, "You should do that, Doug, for a UU service." Well, and here we are. I want to welcome everybody to today's service for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton. If anyone is interested in more information about our fellowship or what it means to be a UUer, please contact our minister, Reverend Sue Browning, or one of our board members such as myself, Christina Drostin, or someone from our Member Services Committee. You can find our contact information by going to our website, uufeaston.org, or by doing a Google search of UUFE Easton. At this point, we will take a moment for the lighting of our chalice by Doug.
Good morning, all my UU fellowshipians. You are the good news. I light the chalice today in celebration of the flame of peace, liberty, and justice for all that burns in each of you. And I would like to quote our very own Talbot County native, Frederick Douglass, who gave us these inspiring words to express the actions. Excerpted from a speech delivered July 5th, 1852. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability, I could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. And kids, don't try this at home without proper PPE.
Oh, wow. Now that was the best chalice lighting ever. You got to admit.
Doug, you know you've been waiting to do that and use your fire torchy thing for like months.
Yeah. So anyway, it's now the part of the service where we do joys and sorrows. And I light the first joy for some really great news, which is that Lisa and Frank Mendich are coming back. Yeah. So they have they've announced plans. They bought a property at in Easton Village. So they're going to have to build a house first, but they are on their way back home. They missed us.
Yeah. And they have a new grandchild in the area.
Yeah, they missed us. They missed us. So the next announcement we have, in which there's going to be, this is almost like a preview of a joy, is that Sue and Bill Browning are happy to announce that their son, Daniel, married a lovely woman by the name of Rachel. And they had Slurpees because the wedding date, I'm giving it away. That's all right. It's a preview. You'll have to know the reason for why they did Slurpees. Let me write a candle on that and just try to move on. Come on. It's a big candle. It's a big joy. Now we do have a candle of concern around all those suffering from COVID-19. Whether they're infected themselves or they're mourning the loss of a loved one, or even that they're feeling pretty isolated right now. Our thoughts are with you, and especially to those first responders, of which we have one. Thank you very much. So this is a candle of appreciation for that too. So at this time, we also light a candle for all the joys and sorrows, not spoken, but remain in our hearts. And I turn this service back to you.
So now I'd like to share the board announcements. Our first announcement is that the UUFE board wants to let you know that we hear you and we understand the request to have services in person outdoors. We are striving towards that. However, we also want to keep everyone safe, keeping in mind, in particular, the recent trend in infection rates. We also want to keep such a service as inclusive as possible so that those who feel safer at home are still able to participate in an outdoor service at UUFE. In the meantime, we're also looking into the possibility of future social activities that would be arranged in a very small group format in a safe manner. Please keep posted via the UU Life announcements for further details soon. Another announcement is to get out the vote. Find out how UU and our congregation can get involved in making a difference in the 2020 elections. There's a link in UU Life, and Gail Scroggs also has information about an upcoming session Tuesday, July 21st with the UU chair for the Legislative Ministry of Maryland about getting out the vote. Also, we have a group of UUFE people who are starting a book club through Zoom to explore how to further dismantle racism. The first topic will be white privilege and the reading of an essay by Peggy McIntosh. Please see next week's newsletter for more information and a link with the Zoom invite. The first meeting is Sunday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. And then last but not least, we would like to have you join us for the virtual coffee hour today at 11 a.m. after our service here by using the Zoom link that is included in your UU Life email. That wraps up our announcements, and now it is my pleasure to lead us into the covenant that's been read by a very special UUFE person. We take a moment to look at this covenant, reflecting on our commitment towards each other. As you listen to these words read out loud by Koa, you'll find that the rest of today's service reflects on each of these important aspects of the faith community that we create here at UUFE.
At the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton, we seek to nurture spiritual and intellectual growth for all ages, and to be actively involved in community outreach and service, cherishing diversity and celebrating our oneness with all humanity. We covenant to support each other in this spirit of compassion, respect, and love.
Thank you, Koa, for that excellent reading of our covenant for UU. And now I know that our congregation is not used to hearing a weather forecast as part of your Sunday service, but this is a news show today, so how can we not include the weather forecast? I now hand it over to a forecaster who has followed very closely throughout the country for her most excellent weather forecasts, Nancy Sawyer.
Doug, Christina, you ask what the weather is like? Well, true to 2020, we are having a blizzard in Ohio. Can't you see the whiteout behind me? Back to you.
Thank you, Nancy, for your wonderful forecast and for joining us today. Now we take a few minutes for our virtual Pass the Plate collection. Last month, UUFE's June virtual special collection brought in $354 for Mayor Sathi, a program that provides veterinary services for dairy animals owned by poor families in India. Thank you for the generous donations. This Sunday, July 19th, the Social Justice Committee offers another special collection, this time for the Chesapeake Multicultural Resource Center, also known as CHES MRC. The Hispanic population in Talbot County is growing, and newcomers experience significant barriers in adapting to local life. Language, educational, and cultural differences hinder participation in our community. The professionals at CHES MRC have gained the trust of this new population and have become valued partners with other local organizations, thereby helping to open doors. They serve all who apply, regardless of race. This collection today has been inspired by our concerns at UUFE for immigrants at the southern border. In addition to this special collection, as one of your co-presidents, I ask everyone to please take a few minutes to remember our financial commitment to UUFE as an organization. The pledges we give in support of UUFE are key to helping our fellowship continue to exist and serve in the many important ways that it has for so long. I'd like to highlight 3 reasons why your ongoing pledge payments are now more important than ever. Understandably, as a consequence of the global pandemic from coronavirus, some of our congregants are not able to pay on their pledges as they had anticipated. UUFE has some new unexpected expenses. We are working hard to save in as many areas as possible, yet doing service and church virtually brings new expense with editing, software, and additional tech support. Lastly, as we witness what is happening in our country and the world regarding social, economic, and racial justice, it is clear that our UU voices and actions are more important than ever. Our role on the Eastern Shore relies on the ongoing strong voice of our minister, the actions and service of our congregants throughout the area. And despite all the social distancing restrictions, as you know, this is no easy feat. There are a couple ways in which you can donate to either the Chesapeake Multicultural Resource Center or to make a payment on your pledge. Please go to UUFE's website. We've added a new Donate Now button to make it easier to do so virtually. Or you can mail your check to our post office box. But please, whichever way you submit your donation or payment, please be sure to make a note on whether or not that is for CHES MRC or for your UUFE pledge. Now I'm very excited for us to dive into the heart of today's service, some good news. You're about to see messages from a couple dozen UUFE people sent in through photos, videos, and also music, with all the good news that they've been witnessing or been a part of these past few months. We will start with some inspiring words by Jim Richardson.
I thought I'd share with you my 6 top social actions for the coming months for me. Now, these may not be for you, but I would like you to consider them. One is to volunteer to help people get out and vote this November. So whatever you can do, make telephone calls, write letters, talk to your friends, but make sure people know how important it is to get out and vote. because if we don't change things in this country, things will just continue to get worse. So make sure people get out and vote. Number 2, donate money to a local food bank. In St. Michael's, we have the St. Michael's Community Center, but in Easton, there are churches that are food banks, a number of them, and either volunteer your time there or donate money to them, because they really are stressed at the moment. Number 3, write letters to your legislators, your state and local legislators, and tell them what's on your mind, because we really need to take an active role in our state and local governments. And maybe most important of all, identify your neighbors that are living alone, and try to visit them or call them on the telephone and just check in, because your phone calls and your efforts will be greatly appreciated. Find a way to thank people for all the things that they're doing. People who work in supermarkets, people who work for food banks, people who police our streets. And finally, support UUFE, because we really need to be the liberal religious community and continue that effort in the county. And we have a wonderful group of people, and we have to keep this organization alive. And so remember UUFE.
We have lots of other great news to report. For example, Laura Wynn, they went and celebrated her dad's birthday. Look at these lovely photos. They went and their dad was turning 77. They visited the Shenandoah Valley and enjoyed gorgeous views of the Blue Ridge Mountains while driving and staying at the Big Meadows Lodge. Time with family is a most precious gift. Also, Sue and Bill Browning are happy to announce that on Saturday, July 11th, their son Daniel married Rachel in the backyard. Just immediate family, 10 total, a few less than the original pre-COVID planned weekend of ceremony and celebration. They had a beautiful service centering their vows, followed by an outdoor brunch. By the way, the emerging term for this is micro-wedding. But don't think that the bride's parents are getting off easy. They're planning a bigger event for August in 2021. We're so happy for them and the whole Browning family. And yes, with a 7-11 wedding date came some celebratory Slurpees. Also enjoyed a day trip to the uncrowded Delaware Seashore Beach with family in perfect weather. And on other good news, the Hampshire family, look at this. They ran away to the mountains of Western Maryland to practice social distancing at elevation. Wanted to get to a higher place. They hit the state parks and the swimming lakes early in the day and enjoyed the peace and quiet until lunch, when the rest of the tourists showed up. Well, they took several beautiful hikes and enjoyed relaxing, ignoring the news, and making s'mores at the cabin. Now, that is some good news. And also, Mary and John Mistrangelo are excited to announce that their youngest niece, Samantha, was recently engaged. She had earned her doctorate in physical therapy and works at MedStar in Baltimore. The wedding will be in 2021. And in an seemingly endless supply of good news, UUFE collected a record $800 for care packs during our May outreach. For more on this fabulous organization, let's go to Emily and Megan, founders and driving force behind Care Packs.
I'm Emily Moody. I work full-time for Talbot County Public Schools, and I'm here with Megan Cook. We are a backpack program during the school year. We provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner for students on the weekends for the kids who rely on free and reduced meals during the week. And when the school closure shut down, when the school closure happened, we realized one of the first things that people were really concerned about was what was going to happen to the kids who depended on free and reduced meals during the school year. What was going to happen when they didn't have access to that? So TCPS and Sodexo stepped in and had a great plan in place really quickly for emergency meal distribution Monday through Friday. And then we at CarePax decided that we would step up what we offered to our families, recognizing we were in a state of emergency. A lot of people weren't working, people couldn't get to grocery stores. So what we decided to offer, instead of just a small package of non-perishable meals and snacks for kids, was to offer a more substantial bag of sort of grocery and pantry staples. I just had to do some reporting about numbers, and I thought I was really blown away by what our numbers actually were during the pandemic. So Megan's got some data for you that I think is pretty interesting. So
yes, I think, I want to thank all the volunteers and supporters we've had, because there was a tremendous amount of work and planning that went in a very short time, and the support was remarkable. Early on, when we were packing 500 bags a week, in a day actually, we broke into multiple shifts. People were socially distant, people were wearing their masks, we had volunteers packing produce bags. It was quite remarkable, and I want to thank everyone who volunteered their time and came out and helped us out. So overall, during this pandemic, we have packed almost 5,000 family bags. Those, as Emily mentioned, have frozen meats, we have fresh produce and breads, almost 3,000 loaves of bread we sent home during that time, which is quite remarkable. And we sent over 91,000 pounds of food home. So, hats off to everyone. We're ready again. As Emily mentioned, we're back to our traditional model of weekend food bags for kids, but we are poised and ready to jump right back into family bags when needed, if needed in the future. So, I think everyone should be proud of the work that we did over those few weeks, and it's quite remarkable. Almost 5,000 bags of food. That's quite a input into the families in Talbot County. So thank you.
Hi, this is Christina Drostin, and I have someone named Eve who would like to share some good news with you all.
I caught my first fish on a sailboat.
How long did it take you to catch your first fish?
An hour, pretty much.
Just an hour? Did you catch it on your very first fishing trip?
Yeah. Oh, no.
And did you think you were going to catch a fish?
No.
How did you know when you'd caught the fish? What happened?
Because my mom set it out to, buzz when he, gets it.
Mm-hmm. And you felt the rod buzz or vibrate in your hands?
Mm-hmm.
And then what did you do when you felt that?
I reeled in as fast as I could.
And what were your moms doing when that happened?
Sailing.
And super excited and freaking out that you caught your first fish?
Yeah, I got a bass.
A striped bass?
Yeah.
And what happened to that striped bass after you hooked it on your line?
I set it back because it was too small to eat.
Too small to eat. Mm-hmm. Even though when you woke up that morning, do you remember what you announced to us before we went on the sail trip? You said, I really hope I catch a big fish today so that we can eat it for dinner. Well done. And now we take you from that simple joy of a child catching his first fish to a much more serious, yet also moving story that is taking our country by storm. With the growing number of tragic deaths of so many people with brown or black skin, we see the killing of George Floyd as the match that lit the fire of a nationwide effort to address how we can make policing safer and more just. How do we explore our inherent prejudices and the systemic racism to which we contribute? As we work on listening, reflecting, and speaking out, many UUers recently joined in local protests these past couple of months. Walking
through the trees, and angels are looking back at me. Looking to the sky, and millions of birds took flight right before my eyes. What a great surprise, it made me wanna cry, 'cause it's divinity alive, divinity's alive, divinity alive.
As UUers, we are often asking ourselves, what can I do? How do I fight against racism? How do I take part in being part of the solution? This next segment of Some Good News is brought to you by Tori Paxson and Henna Paracha, who helped to do exactly that. These two women just created a new talk show called The Race Thing to help us here in Talbot County talk about race and talk about how to dismantle racism and a number of social injustices.
So basically, we were literally sitting down in our little sitting area that we have, and we were just talking about it, me, Tori, and my best friend Jasmine. And we just were listening to the county council meeting, and that's where Tori came up with a great idea to actually just talk about things that I feel like a lot of people feel scared to talk about. A lot of it is just we're not sure, especially when it comes to different areas that we're career-wise specifically, it ends up being like, oh, I'm scared to lose my job kind of thing. So we wanted to just kind of like give that platform to people. But yeah, it was all Tori's idea. So she will tell you what she was feeling before she asked me to be a part of it with her.
So I would say
missed out. What happened at that county council meeting?
So it was also the same day as my birthday, which I thought was interesting. The council was taking a vote on to send a letter of support to a bill that was being proposed. It was going to be a national police reform bill called HR 7120 or HN. Don't quote me directly on that. But during this time about talking about that letter, they were also talking about adding a diversity statement. And I believe that the handbook for the Talbot County area, and also trying to do more diversity trainings. So during this time, as they're talking about doing that as a whole, Laura Price, Councilwoman Laura Price, was very vocal on the aspect of she felt as though they didn't need a diversity statement. That really didn't need much diversity training because she knew about the trainings that were already happening and how respectful they were and the kindness that was happening. And she didn't really believe that this was a problem because there are so many other problems that are happening in the county right now that this just wasn't one of them. Yeah. So when she said that, I kind of resonated with me and Hannah and my wife in the aspect of, you know, that's so very not true. There's so many racial disparities that are happening in Talbot County. There's racial disparities all over the world because of the aspect of we all are in design in this systemic racism. So for her to try and make it seem like, which a lot of us do, that Talbot County is in this bubble, like we live in our own little world where these things don't affect us, and we don't have to think about that because everybody in Talbot County just loves each other and we just treat each other with respect. But sadly enough, that's not very much true. There are 17% Black people in our demographic in Talbot County. And a lot of times they are misheard, they are less represented, and they are the marginalized group. So we kind of wanted to create the show to highlight and amplify those voices of the unheard, but to also really get people talking about the race thing.
Definitely. And I think like even in just talking to a few people within your own community, if you talk to like Black people, you'll see like you immediately get a sense of what the treatment is so much more, it's way different than your average folk around Talbot County. So like within that, like just having conversations with each other, we realized there was a lot of disparities. And then we were just like, isn't it curious that we don't hear a lot from like the leaders of certain organizations, and maybe we need to hear a little bit of their voices as well. And that's how it all started. We started emailing people and reaching out, and you'd be so surprised. People were so quick. They were just like, yes, I'm ready. Let's talk about it, because there's so many people who haven't been given the chance or the platform to talk about something that they truly, truly feel within their heart.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that you've seen a strong positive response and people who are interested in participating. I think that Easton in particular, but Talbot County as a whole, is very ripe for this type of platform and this type of conversation right now, because we all know that Talbot County is so small enough that we're separated by like, what, 1 or 2 degrees of separation from one another as far as people just knowing each other and organizations interacting with each other, having similar volunteers and leaders. So we can have these conversations in a way that I think is very real and practical, and also in a way that we can enact change more readily than if you lived in a metropolis or a larger urban area.
Well, that's the important part of having these conversations, is that a lot of people don't know what's happening in their own backyard, as you said earlier, to the aspect of we make assumptions sometimes that our elected officials are there to take care of us and that they are there for putting our needs first. But sometimes we also have to see what else is happening behind the curtain. Like, is there more that they could be doing? And if there is more, then why aren't they doing it? So it's getting us to ask those questions and at the same time talk to one another if there's ways that we can help, which comes down to the aspect of, as a community, we all need to be supporting each other. We're all members of this county. We should be able to join together in unity to fix these disparities instead of letting them continue to grow. Right, absolutely. And I think that, that willingness to come together and to enact positive change, there's so many ways, like you said, that we can do that, from basic education, when people just ignorantly think, oh, there's not actual racism in the county, and like Laura Price's comments of thinking, well, I don't know the last time I saw somebody be deliberately hateful to another person because they have brown or Black skin, and maybe hopefully it has been a while since she's seen that. However, to not recognize what institutionalized racism is a huge gap in opportunity that I'm sure not only for her, but for many other people in the county, that we can work on changing and turning around. I'd love to hear future ideas that you all have as far as any concrete recommendations or thoughts you have of what you'd like to try to put together for people in the county who want to join you and support you. The reason why, what I'm thinking of as I ask you this question is because people in our UU fellowship are super vocal and passionate about our beliefs for fighting injustice. And I have heard from multiple people say, I want to do more than protest. I want to do more than carry a sign or sign a petition or write an article. Like, I want to
feel like I'm really participating in enacting positive change. So that's one of the reasons why I was excited to interview you all this evening, is for people in our congregation to see your faces, to hear your voices, to be able to check out your talk show online, and to get a sense for where you plan to take it with discussion about different subjects these next few weeks, and ongoing collaborations with different groups in the area.
Just to add on, which is also the step one of all of this process, right? If you just don't want to just protest. I'd like to, like you said, hopefully that Laura Price hasn't seen a lot of racism within her cohorts, but it's easy to say that and I don't mean to point it out, and it's not meant to be in a way of hatred, but it's so if you're in white spaces, of course you're not going to see racism. And so step one of any kind of proactiveness is listening. One of the, I learned so much about my own self and my own biases and a lot of things that I was avoiding to face with the real world was that I avoided my whole entire ethnicity because I was trying to whitewash myself so I could survive in the environment that I am in. But having these conversations with like Tori and Jasmine and like understanding that that's what I was doing within my own self, like introspection comes first. And I was only able to do that by listening to other people as well. So like I highly, highly urge that step one, even before you are trying to protest, is listen and do your research as well.
I would say to add on to that is that just like we had a conversation, if anybody has seen episode 2 with two wonderful men by the name of Shelton Hawkins and Devin Beck. During our conversation, we were talking about the aspects of, as Hannah would say, every drop makes the ocean. Articles is important. Even I would say, if you're trying to figure out where to go next from there, have conversations.
I had a drop in my connection. I'm so sorry. Can you pick up again from what you were saying about the drop in the ocean and go from there, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
I will give you one tip though that we've noticed. So if you mute yourself while we're talking, it's a lot smoother, and then we'll do the same thing while you're talking.
So as Hannah has said before, every drop makes an ocean. So it's important to still protest. It's important to still sign petitions. It's important to still write articles because it makes a bigger impact as a whole. If you're trying to figure out where to go next after that, I would say have conversations with your own family. Talk to yourself and say, hey, like, are there certain things that even I don't realize? Do I have implicit biases? It all starts with a self-examination. It's you really taking the time to understand yourself and your race and what that means and what impact it has had on your life. And then going forward from that point, then you can start taking steps to do the work. But I would say the one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to ask people of color about their experiences. What you kind of want to do is you want to try to make it a solo journey. If you want to learn more, then you have to take time to read books that talk about how to be an anti-racist, find podcasts that talk about different ways that you can help, watch different shows, the race thing, if you're trying to find ways that you can educate yourself on how you can do more to help your community. As far as the question about the future of our show, we appreciate everybody who watches. We appreciate all of the support that we've gotten so far. We're hoping just to be able to shine the light and amplify the other organizations and the other voices that are doing so much in Talbot County already, to kind of sort of give them the spotlight that they so much deserve. If anybody wants to talk with us, come on our show and tell us about experiences that they've had and share their truths, please send us an email. Message us on Facebook or Instagram. Like, we will message you right back and tell you about how you can join our platform and find ways that you can help.
So tell us, how do people find you? I know how to find you, but how do the rest of our listeners check out your show?
So you can find the race thing on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Our main platform is YouTube. We post videos every Friday at 6 p.m. on YouTube. We also have every Wednesday we post a sneak peek about what you're going to see on Friday, so that you can see those on Instagram and on Facebook, just to kind of sort of give you like a teaser of what's to come. And these are all, so far we've talked to all local people. So these are people that if you're watching the show and you're like, hey, I liked what that guy was saying about, you can message them. They are conversations with them as well.
And I'm gonna go ahead and shamelessly plug our next episode in here. So we do have a very, very important interview coming up with Clint Bordley, who was the SRO officer in the Easton Elementary School, middle school, I'm sorry. Easton Middle School. So yeah, definitely look forward to that. We dropped a teaser just today on the Facebook page and Instagram. So yeah, definitely check that out.
That's wonderful, and such a timely and important topic that I know is on a lot of people's minds, especially educators and parents who have their kids in school. Thank you both, Hannah and Tori, so much for your time, and congratulations on your new talk show. We're excited to continue being fans here in our household, and I know that a lot of UU congregants will be looking forward to checking out your work too and connecting with you all online. I wish you two the best of luck.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hi UU friends, I have some very exciting news, and it's about Pride on the Midshore. Many of you received emails from me over the last, it's almost been a year now, about the Talbot County Public School and their non-discrimination policy. They were trying to do some sneaky things and narrow it and eliminate sex and gender from their policy of things that they don't discriminate against. Well, a bunch of us rallied, we showed up at the meetings, we've written, and I am happy to report that as of Wednesday, the policy is better than it was before. So it includes sex, it includes gender, it includes gender identity, and finally the whole board has come around and gets it, and they are now under second reader. The process is first reader and then second reader, and then it'll be official policy. So if you have any inclination to write to our Talbot County School Board, but tell them thank you. They are heading in the right direction. So that's my little piece of good news. All right, bye.
Hi, everybody. This is Ann Davis, and I'd like to tell you about some of the things that have brought me some joy and happiness during this pandemic time. I always enjoy kayaking, and I've taken time to do some 3-mile kayak trips out around an island in the Miles River, and some long bike rides. And I'm trying to do my 10,000 steps, maybe 3 times a week on the rail trail in St. Michael's. But the most fun I've had is hanging out with some of our younger folks, to name them exactly, Eve, Drostin, and the Harton children, Tessa, Ben, and Lee. So what I've done with them is met with them on Zoom and basically just hung out, played some games, and done some art activities. And I'll show you a couple of those. I've been spending some time with Eve online and doing some crafty kinds of things, and I asked her to suggest something that we could do together. her idea was to do a gingerbread man and decorate it however we wanted to with whatever materials we had. So this is what I created with buttons and beads and pipe cleaners. And she made something just as fun. I can't show you that, but she could. And another time with the Hartons and with Eve, I did a mosaic on paper. This is a sunflower. I hope you can tell that. And what the idea was there was we took pieces of a magazine in various colors and then pasted them onto a shape to create a work of art. But most of all, I've had a lot of fun giggling and talking with the kids. At the Hartons, I got to meet their new pets, the toads and the turtle that they collected while visiting their grandparents up in Chestertown. And also we've played some games like headbands, which is kind of like a 20 questions game. And also Chutes and Ladders. There's Chutes and Ladders. You may not be able to see. But anyway, it's been fun just hanging out and staying connected with them. And it's been so much fun.
Some good news for me is that we get to do Zoom with Ann Davis. And I like it because it's fun and we get to do all projects and games.
There's more good news that we'd like to share. It's about a new granddaughter. I'm going to do a screen share and show you photos and tell you the story about our new granddaughter up in Wisconsin. Our son Nathan and his wife Kate live in Madison. And when the pandemic started several months ago, they were expecting their first child. Kate was due to deliver the last week of May, and we were deeply concerned about whether hospitals in Madison would be overwhelmed by COVID-19 cases before Kate's delivery date. We were also concerned that the hospital environment would be safe for childbirth. For weeks before the birth, Nathan was not even sure that he would be allowed to be with Kate during labor and childbirth. But the good news is that Madison did a much better job managing the spread of the virus than most parts of the country did. So Evelyn Bernice Barker was born on May 27th in a safe and healthy hospital environment. But there were more concerns ahead when it was discovered that Evie showed symptoms of tachycardia. This is a racing heartbeat. So Evie arrived home with a heart monitor and electrodes attached to her tiny body. The monitor reported her condition 24/7 to medical staff. Meantime, Rita and I packed our car for the drive up to Madison to meet Evelyn. This would be the first time in 10 years that we made the 2-day drive rather than fly. Because of our own concerns about the virus and our worry about infecting Evie or her parents, we planned this trip very carefully. We did strict quarantine for 2 weeks before our departure, and we traveled totally self-contained with a porta-pot in the trunk of the car and a beach tent that we could stand up and take down quickly for privacy. The good news is that we drove there and back safely, and we had a wonderful time with Evelyn and her parents. Grandma got to hold this baby for hours and hours, and I got to have a turn now and then too. It really was a wonderful visit. There was more good news. That is that Evie is no longer wearing that monitor, and she has parents who love her deeply and watch over her very carefully. Oh, and here's another bit of good news. Nathan is a boat builder, and so is his father. Nathan bought Evie's grandpa a set of building plans for his next sailboat, and I can't wait to get started.
All right, I'd like to welcome our audience to our UUFE edition of SGN. And right now I have the privilege of interviewing some very special guests. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves.
I'm Jean Ryan.
I'm Carol Meredith.
I'm Suzanne Todd.
And the reason why I have asked these guests onto our show is because I want to share with you the amazing work that they have done with helping save lives and keep our community safe. During this COVID pandemic, these women have stepped up and volunteered their time and skill to sew masks for a number of people. And I'm going to let you hear the rest of the story directly from them. I think I first reached out to Jean. We were talking about masks at one point, and then I just lost track of who was talking with whom, and you all just started sewing left and right. Jean, can you tell me kind of what happened on your end?
Well, I'm not fantastic mask makers, but I did after an initial, I don't know, number of some sort, I decided, okay, people are going crazy with this, but I'm going to make masks for anybody who asks me and my family. So I live in Londonderry, and one of the things that's happened is that people see my masks, which are generally colorful, and they say, oh, I want one like that. So I say, okay. And then my son in Northern Virginia asked for masks. And I think initially they wanted 4. And then he was called back to work. So he called me one day and said, can you make me at least 6 more? So the idea is out there. I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to go into factory production mode.
Fair enough.
Yeah, at one point I ran out of elastic, and then I dug into the supplies that Christina gave me. Another woman here at Londonderry ran out of elastic, so I gave her the second half of those. So I also made a lot of masks with ties, which were recommended to me by an oral surgeon, a plastic surgeon. He said they're much better for all day. And my son, who has to wear his at work all day, confirmed that. He said ties are better than the elastic around the ears for long periods of time. So that's really the extent of it, and I don't know, if I'm going to get more requests or not. So that's where it all sits right now.
Just wait for our show to air. Thank you, Jean. Carol Meredith, tell us how you became involved in this and what you've been doing with it.
Well, I found the whole isolation thing and the need to communicate with people by Zoom to be enormously frustrating, because I don't understand this technology, and I wanted to be with people physically. And for the longest time, I was feeling really lost. But I started to make masks for myself and for my family, and I have a very large family. And I was experimenting with designs because I like to sew. And so I took it on as a challenge, and it just sort of it took off. And I heard that the Hospital Foundation wanted some, so I took a bunch over there. And then a friend of Christina's wanted some, and she's the one I've mostly been providing for. About once a week, I'll put a whole bunch of masks in a baggie and leave them on her doorstep. And that making the masks has given me some meaning and has made this whole thing a lot more manageable for me, because I was really lost in the beginning, and now I feel like I'm doing something.
Thank you. Suzanne, can you tell us some about your involvement and how you came to start making masks?
Well, I guess I heard, and it's been a while, that Joann Fabrics in Easton, and there are other Joann Fabrics around in different areas, but that they would provide people with kits to make, I think it was 10 masks with no charge. So I went to get them. Actually, I think it was 5 in a bag and per customer. So Rob got a bag too, although he's not a sewer. And I dragged out my sewing machine, which was usually only used for mending. And luckily it still worked. And I began making masks using the pattern that Joann Fabrics provided. And a couple of neighbors here in Claiborne also got their mask patterns. And then going online, we came up with some other pattern ideas. And it kind of evolved from there. Then a friend from our old neighborhood in Frederick asked if is a COVID nurse at Johns Hopkins. So I responded and was quite happy to oblige. And Hopkins had their own pattern that they wanted you to use, which had the ties. And so I made several, and some neighbors also contributed to that. And then I realized, well, our niece works at in Baltimore at University of Maryland. So I asked Mindy if she would like some masks. And again, my neighbors worked with me. We sent Mindy masks. So it just has snowballed from there, and sent masks to family, Rob's family in North Carolina, and friends, and our immediate family. Our youngest daughter works at a place called Medical Skin Therapeutics, and she and her staff, once they were back at work, needed masks. And our neighbor, I made a mask for him, and he comes over with an old sheet when I first started doing this, and also some old cotton shirts that turned into masks. So it's amazing what you can do with what you have. And as Carol said, it was wonderful to find something productive to do that was helpful during this crazy time we're in.
Well, and it's just amazing to me how much it's spread. It's such a grassroots effort. And so it's a beautiful counterbalance, I think, to the spreading of COVID, to hear these stories about how the need for masks, the volunteers to help make them, to provide supplies, has just spread naturally and beautifully in multiple communities. And another part of this spreading is finding people who need the masks and how to distribute them. So I want to take a moment to introduce a surprise guest for us this evening, and I hope she's okay with, there we are. So Meredith Gerard. Oh, let me unmute you. Maybe you have to unmute yourself, and you're being recorded, FYI.
Thank you.
So Meredith Gerard, I'm going to introduce you to someone who you have emailed with and then done like secret mask deals with on the front porch. Carol Meredith is your mask buddy.
Hello, Meredith. I have heard your dog every time I leave the masks on your doorstep, and I'm just very thankful that that's a nice strong door between him and me.
Yeah, we have a pretty fierce watchdog for sure. Clearly the house was under attack with you and your masks. Well, it's so great to see your face, Carol, because and Dahlia hopefully will join us. She's trying to get on. I think she's having a little trouble logging on. So I'm Meredith Gerard. I'm the managing attorney for Midshore Pro Bono. We provide legal services to people in the community who can't afford an attorney. And Dahlia Miguel is our bilingual intake coordinator. And she is amazing, and we adore her. And she had mentioned to us that many people in her community and her church had expressed concern because they didn't have enough protective gear to do their jobs, working in all kinds of essential businesses, from landscaping to healthcare to cleaning houses to producing food and in agriculture. So that is where I got the idea to try to make this connection. And sorry, there's a lot of activity. We're playing hot lava in my house right now. This is the only place where I have a good internet connection. So
the
sorry.
joys of sheltering at home. I get it. I opted for the poor internet connection.
Anyway, oh, there she is. Yay, Dahlia. All right, I'm gonna just
gradually connecting.
Hopefully we'll be able to see her. Hey, Dahlia.
Hi, everybody. I was having difficulty signing in. Sorry.
I'm so glad it worked. Dahlia, I'm Christina Drostin, and I'm a friend of Meredith.
Couldn't get to work.
We're happy to have you here tonight. I invited you and Meredith as our surprise guests, and I want to introduce you to Jean and Suzanne and Carol Meredith. They're three of our volunteer mask makers.
Amazing. I'm so happy to finally meet everybody, especially for the mask. First of all, I just want to say thank you, because that is just a blessing during this craziness in the world right now.
Oh. Well, I think it means so much to these women who are sheltering at home and making mask after mask, to hear from you and Meredith about how you're able to get them out to people, and just to connect that, I think is really appreciated all around.
No, definitely. So I had a lot of people come around and ask, especially once they found out that I was getting masks donated from Miss Carol and everybody else. So they would just call me and be like, hey, I heard you have masks. Is there like a possibility that I can have a couple? So I would hand them the masks that they needed. Some of them were farm workers, crop workers who would work outside. And sometimes they would only have one mask at a time that they would be able to use. And like, you know, they would have to go home and wash it and then wait for it to dry. And then they said sometimes they would just like start to look and smell a little funky from using it so much. So whenever I was giving them masks, they were just so happy. They're like, yes, we have more. Now we're going to be able to work a little bit more comfortably. So I would hand them a mask, and along I would hand them flyers for Mission Pro Bono. But overall, they were just so happy that people were actually donating them, because a lot of places in the area were just selling them. And especially with people with big family members, they just weren't able to afford that many for their families.
Well, and I think one of the things that we're seeing, unfortunately, is how disproportionately COVID is infecting minority groups, people who are living in higher density, sorry, Kat, higher density situations, and are working regardless of what the restrictions and what the recommendations are out there. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dahlia. I know that you are a little bit, Meredith, that our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton is really committed to humanitarian causes and really promoting equality, respect, and also taking care of each other, taking care of our communities. So we appreciate the connection that you and Meredith have given us to be able to distribute masks to people who need it.
No, definitely thank you for making them in the first place. I feel like that's such a great thing to actually want to like knit them and make them and then just hand them out for donations for anybody who needs them. So first of all, thank you guys for even doing that in the first place. That was really very appreciated by me and everybody else who received them.
So what's your supply situation now? Do you have enough?
So I actually already gave out the ones that I picked up last time. Meredith did tell me that she received another packet of child masks. So I'm going to pick them up throughout the week and then hopefully distribute that by the end of the week or weekend. So I just have some at the office. I just have to go pick them up.
So we should keep sewing.
Yes, that would be, if you guys can, that would be amazing.
So where should we take them? Tell me where we should take them.
So I can email you Meredith Gerard's home address after the video recording, unless Meredith, is it best at your house or at Midshore Pro Bono's office outside of that front door?
Well, probably at my house because all of our staff is working remotely and we only have somebody part-time that's actually in the office to like get the mail and everything. So we're forwarding phone calls to Dahlia's phone and my phone and, you know, trying to keep our fingers in the dike of assisting our clients. But so there's sometimes people in the office, but lots of times not. So but my home address, I have a couple of chairs on the front porch and Carol always leaves them there. And that's a great place for me to find them. And I promise you'll be safe from the dog.
I love dogs.
I will send you all each other's emails and cell phones.
That'd be great.
Wonderful.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Well, do we have any parting words or questions?
Is our Zoom time ended maybe?
Uh-oh, I think we lost her.
Oh, I'm back. I'm sorry. I asked if there were any final words or questions people wanted to say before we wrap things up.
I do have something to share that on a very personal note, I have had a whole stash of fabric. In fact, my kids would tell me I had a problem. And so I have used up all of these scraps that I could not bear to part with. And I kept the tiniest little piece. Well, moms don't need much fabric. And I've used up a whole lot. And I haven't bought, well, I just bought one small piece of fabric because I wanted a particular design. But other than that, it's been everything that I already had. So that's really helped to reduce my stash.
That's wonderful. Your kids must be particularly appreciative too.
It's nice to help with your hoarding problem, Carol.
Yes, I was going to say that word, but they have used that.
You all
I too have reduced
Thank you.
inventory.
I want to thank you all again for your time, for your work, for your talent, for getting these gifts out to the community. Thank you all for coming on tonight, and then also for continuing to do all your good work.
Thank you,
Thanks very
Christina,
much
for doing this.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take
Bye,
care,
Dahlia.
everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Bye,
you, everybody.
bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.
Bye. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, Christina and Doug. This is Lauren. I have a little thing of good that Bill Browning and I have been doing ever since coronavirus started. We had our OWL group back in January, and Bill and I started to think about them as we all went into hibernation and isolation, and we asked if they wanted to have every 2 weeks a youth check-in. So we've had Zoom meetings every 2 weeks with our OWL group, and it's been great to connect across our different schools and across our different counties, across our different phases of life, and just to know that people are out there to care. And we've worked on 3 different projects. The first project is we all thought about what people might need in isolation to keep themselves busy. So we created little care packs. So we've got 10 packs of activity books, note cards, mints, playing cards, brownie mix, and chapstick, and a potted plant, and a candle. All things that the youth thought people would enjoy and would make them feel cared for in their having to stay at home. The second thing we're working on is we are all making tiles. We are decorating them such that a flower petal comes out of the corner. And, whoops, my camera moved. And they will then all get mosaicked together somewhere at UU. So there are 9 of us tiling, drawing little tiles with flower petals that we will create a pretty mosaic for our space at UU when we're together. And then the last thing we're doing is we're going to take a virtual tour of TIS. Bill is on the board, and Ann Davis had a discussion with our youth about homelessness, and she's one of their volunteers. And we're going to take a tour of the TIS facility and learn about that all via Zoom in another week or so. So we're trying to make things happen. We're trying to stay connected, and I think it's working. But thanks for your service. Bye.
The good news that Don and I would like to share is about a local food pantry here in Ridgely.
I'm going to do some screen sharing and show you photos while Rita tells the story. Click, click. Let's see here. There we go.
At the start of the pandemic, we felt a sense of urgency to prepare ourselves for the unknown and to be of some kind of help to others. So I gave Don permission to expand the garden, even though the house wasn't finished. We connected to our local food pantry at St. Martin's Barn, which is run by the Benedictine Sisters. Their motto is, "A stable environment changes everything." With compassion and respect, St. Martin's is helping families and future generations with their basic needs of food, clothing, and housing. In Maryland, 6 of the 10 counties with the highest poverty rate are on the Eastern Shore. It's their mission to change that. They provide 6,500 bed nights per year. 250 families receive food each month. 600 women and children are helped, and 10,000 pounds of food are distributed each month. So St. Martin's Barn was foremost in our minds when the garden began producing more than Don and I could need. We used the stimulus money to expand the garden and buy supplies for greenhouse. Don puts in all the hard work, being out in the very early morning hours and again in the evenings, and you can find him many days during the day in the hot sun, also weeding and caring for the vegetables. And then not to mention many hours he spent at his computer creating spreadsheets for crop rotations, harvest schedules, seed and supply ordering, and other things. When Don delivered our first few small boxes of produce, he got a look inside the food pantry's huge delivery storeroom. There was tons of food in there. He wondered if our small contribution made any difference at all. We talked to the food pantry director, and she shared with us this good news, that during this COVID, they are getting more food deliveries than ever before, at least for now, she said. But she reassured us that because most of this food is canned or otherwise processed, they appreciate any fresh food contributions we can provide. And that was the good news to us.
Oh man, you just cannot stop this good news. UUFE is out there making it happen. And guess what? We have so much more good news to share. So let me get started. So Tom Arnold, his wife Sandy, they've been feeling a little closed in, you know? It's been cold, it's been COVID. They're finally getting outdoors. They've been able to kayak with Chesapeake VA Maritime Museum groups in a way that is both distanced and safe. And they've been really enjoying being outside together and with another couple. They've even been able to get out sailing some. And for Tom, much like myself, being on the water is just so calming, isn't it? Gosh, are we blessed. Hey, what good news story would be complete without puppies? We have to have a puppy. Thank goodness we do. An adorable puppy named Ruthie has brought days of cuteness, play, and puppy trouble and laughter into the Cranwell-Wilcox home this spring. Lyndon, Todd, Emily, and Linda have had their hands full and an easy smile on their lips with this newest addition to the family. Look at these adorable photos, will you? Guess what? We've got another adventure story. Dawn was thrilled to start her first kids bike and art group this month. The group, which includes Fiona, learned and practiced important bicycle safety rules before venturing to the pine forest to draw trees in the wind, blowing in the wind, not just in the wind, but blowing in the wind. Their second adventure was a much longer ride using bike lanes to meet and draw Silas, the baby donkey at the Campbell's Lane farm in Preston. Apparently a baby donkey is a very good model, and he was very entertaining. Yeah. And of course, we have some really wonderful news coming from our very own master gardener, Chrissy. Kara writes, I had water lilies bloom and a water planter that I didn't think was going to bloom because it was too shady. My dog had a badly infected paw, but with antibiotics, it cleaned up in just a few days, and he's feeling much better now. I have thoroughly enjoyed some moments laughing with my girlfriend, Gail Summer. We laugh a lot. My gardens at home are very peaceful and calming. I've had some spectacularly weird plants doing well here. Well, it's been a spectacularly weird summer, I gotta tell you, Karen. One is 7 feet tall, a 7-foot tall allium called Summer Drummer. My dad successfully had a pacemaker and a heart ablation this summer and is feeling so much better. My mom was featured in the local newspaper by Growing Vegetable Gardens. These are exciting times. Yes, they are. Work is very busy, and I have some wonderful new crew members who are amazing. And I think it's fair to say, Kara, we all here at UUFE thank you because you are good news. We are blessed to have your master gardening skills available to us. And in another piece of international good news for UUFE, here's a montage of photos from Anne Jacob's daughter, Catherine. She's been working as an au pair for a Dutch family in Amsterdam, and just this past weekend started a 4-week holiday. They've taken her to Paris for a few days and then on to Spain, where she's going to stay with a friend in Italy. Pretty good experience. That is some good news indeed. Back to you, Christina. Okay. You know, Christina, through our UUFE family, we have covered so much good news. We have fed people, we've masked people, we've marched for people, we've traveled high, we've traveled low, we've gone local, we've gone international. We have climbed every mountain. We have swum in every stream. We have braved every snowstorm in Ohio and brought it all home to you, our UU fellowshipians. As Unitarian minister wrote, and he was quoted by Martin Luther King Jr., the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And we here at UUFE have been bending it, baby. It should be a bumper sticker.
Do I have a quick second where I can share one of my pieces of some good news?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So 4 months ago, when it all started getting stirred up and we all started sheltering at home, we didn't really know what the future would hold for us, and we were all just incredibly stressed and remain still stressed in a lot of different ways. And one of these people who goes to UUFE and also gets into this little tiny skinny boat and rows throughout the summer, every summer in our rowing group, happened to say one day walking, probably the last time we walked out of UUFE, said, hey, we should do some exercise and go to the Y. And so then Doug Jurrius and I went ahead and made plans to start going to the Y. We did that until the Y closed. And then we thought, gosh, we should really still probably meet and pretend like we're doing some exercise. So since then, just about every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Doug has driven over to my house at 5:45 a.m. so that we could go for a 45-minute walk, which tends to involve a lot more talking than it does walking. He usually gets out in the street to maintain our 6 feet. Once in a while, I take a turn in the street. But that time has meant the world to me, the friendship, the companionship, the sounding board, and I've just really enjoyed getting to know you a lot more. So thank you, and it's a huge piece of good news in my life these past 4 months.
Oh, wow. And to me too, for a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons. It's been fantastic. So, and I think we also owe this enormous bit of gratitude to Mr. Peach.
Mark Peach is still cranking away as we speak right now. Well, not as you're watching this, but as I speak, working hard to put together all the pieces of all these beautiful submissions we've received and all the pieces that we've recorded. So we give our deepest gratitude to Mark for his skill and time and patience. Also want to thank all of you who have sent in these amazing stories of some good news that has been happening right here in our own backyards. We are happy to close as we began with an original piece of music from one of our own. Enjoy today's postlude provided by Eamon Peach. His original composition is titled May.